Hi, everyone. Welcome to your latest Carson's Take 5. Ryan and Sonu. Sonu, it's official. This year wasn't going to be the first year with no volatility and no potentially scary headlines. We warned that 2026 would be that way. This week, we're going to let's talk about Greenland, because that is in the news. Markets sold off. Lots of other things. How worried should we be about a back and forth with Greenland, and the fallout, of course, being another tariff war?
Yeah, I guess we have to talk about Greenland now. It's 1 year.
No, sorry, we do.
It's 1 year since inauguration, and policy is still going wild, right? Here we are a year later since President Trump's inauguration on January 20th, 2025, and tariffs are back in the news, and this time within the context of Greenland. I think the difference here is President Trump really wants Greenland.
Yeah.
For any number of reasons. I think it's, like there are all sorts of reasons floating around. There's rare earths. There's the fact that maybe he's upset because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. All of it. Set that aside. The seriousness of the issue is really manifested in whether the threats he's issuing take place, right? Do that come into force? And what kind of threats are these? Tariff threats. And, President Trump's threatened to impose tariffs on countries that oppose his intention to control Greenland. You're talking about Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, UK, right? These tariffs would be presumably on top of any other tariffs they agreed to with the deal last summer. Look, markets didn't like this, right? There's any number of things going on, but the reality is that markets don't like tariffs. Markets push back. Both the stock market and the bond market. When bond yields go up, what does that mean? Mortgage rates go up. That defeats the administration's purpose.
Let me jump in for a second there, Sonu. So let me just jump in. So that's a great point, because this happened on Tuesday, the 3-day weekend. We came in, S&P 500 down 2%, the worst day since October. Gold was soaring. Silver was soaring. You might want to talk about that. But we didn't get any safety from bonds. Historically, stocks zigs, bonds zag. But honestly, we didn't really see that back in April either, when we had the tariff warnings, because global yields are going higher. And I do want your take on the Japanese yields continue to move higher. And that's kind of, I'm not saying it's upsetting the apple cart, but that has some pretty smart macro thinkers looking like, wow, Japanese yields are going up. Are global yields in general going to go higher? And I don't know what that means. I'll be honest. I'm not sure, but that might upset the apple cart a little bit. I asked you a bunch of questions. I don't know what I even asked you. Where do you want to take what I just said, Sonu?
Well, let's take Japanese yields. What's happening in Japan, right? Yields are going up. Why? When do yields usually go up? If people are worried about inflation. When are people worried about inflation? If there's a lot more spending. And usually the biggest entity that spends a lot is the government. And that's literally what the Japanese government is proposing to do. It's one thing if you propose a lot of spending when inflation is low. But Japanese inflation is running close to 3%. Sound familiar? Maybe it does. And now they want to spend a lot more. They want to cut taxes. They want to increase defense spending. They want to do all of this stuff, boost investment in industries and technology and all of that. And that's why the bond market in Japan is, to paraphrase, is freaking out, basically, right? That's why bond yields are going up, and when bond yields go up, prices go down. But look, that sounds familiar to what's happening in the US, right? And as a result of all this, yen is weakening. What are we having in the US? We have tariff threats, which can push inflation higher. Inflation's running close to 3% right now over the last year. We haven't made a lot of progress on the inflation front in 2025, which is why consumers are upset too. And, there's more deficit spending coming up. President Trump wants more spending on the military. Tax cuts are going into effect literally as I speak right now, as we speak. So all of this increases deficits. The dollar's gone down. And what does that help? You look to other diversifiers in your portfolio. You mentioned gold and silver. Gold is up over 11% just this year. That's coming on the back of 65, 70% last year. And there's a theme here, right? People are, or a lot of investors are skeptical that bonds will provide safety in a high inflationary environment when there's a lot of spending. And that's when other assets, other diversifiers do well.
So I believe we probably said on these take fives, we said if you drop it and it hits your foot and it hurts, you might want to consider owning some of that. And it doesn't mean we don't like stocks, doesn't mean we don't like bonds, right? We think those make sense, a diversified portfolio. But in that other bucket, that the bonds part, we think it makes sense to own some diversifiers in there away from bonds, like gold, potentially managed futures, maybe a little bit of cash. Talk to your financial advisor before you make any decisions here. But that's clearly what we've been seeing. Sonu, a couple things for me, and then I'd like you to bring us home. So listen, geopolitical concerns are real. We have dealt with them throughout time. And what's going to happen with the U.S. and Greenland and tariffs and Europe, we don't know. right? We just don't know. But what we do know is this: we are in the middle of earnings season. It has been very solid so far. Corporate America, once again, is showing record profits, record profit margins. The consumer, although all those soft data, like, hey, how do you feel? Surveys are low. Look at retail sales. Look what people are doing. The labor market, we've talked extensively about this. It's a low hire world, yes, but if you have a job, you're doing pretty well. So the economy is still on firm footing. I've always said a strong economy can make up for a lot of other sins. All the drama with the geopolitical stuff, we are not experts on it. We just know that it might cause short-term volatility, but this is still a bull market in our opinion. We titled our 2026 outlook, Ride the Wave. We still think there's more waves than not, but waves go up and down, and they've gone down a little bit. Sonu, wrap us up in 30 seconds.
And it's a global bull market, to your point. Yep. And everything I mentioned, if there's more deficit spending, if the central bank is keeping rates low, despite elevated inflation, whether it's in Japan or the US, both seem very alike right now. Hey, that's not bad for the stock market. The Nikkei is up 5% year to date. The S&P 500
Japan.
That's the Japanese stock index, right? It's at all-time highs, close to all-time highs. And that's on the back of a 32% gain last year. The S&P 500 did about 18% last year. It's flat for the year, but, you get volatile days. But look, everything that we see along geopolitics, all the policy issues, a lot of it is actually good for the stock market. And, you want to participate in that.
Absolutely. So everyone, again, this was your latest Carson's Take 5. Who knew a week ago we were going to be talking about Greenland? Who knows what we'll talk about next week? But whatever is in the news, whatever you're hearing about, whatever worries are out there, we will keep doing these weekly Carson Take 5s and give our take on what you should really be paying attention to. Everyone, we'll see you next week. Take care. Thank you.